What you gonna do, brother?
Oh, yeah!
Woo! What? What?
If you smell what the rock...
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Turnbuckle. My name is the Big Albowski. His name is Professor Keith. And joining us out from California, Mr. Keith, is Sir Samurai. What's up, my man?
Not much. How you guys doing today?
Oh, we're so pumped and excited. I love we've been branching out all over the country, and we even had a couple guys from Switzerland. So to talk to yourself out there in California, 3-hour difference. It's 3 p.m. on the West Coast. It's 6 p.m. where we're at. Is an honor. And also the fact that you've been wrestling for about 20 years. We love to have veterans off. Yeah, Keith?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so great because I know we talked about on the pre-show, you know, sometimes we have younger wrestlers on this show, which I love doing, guys that they're still so young in their career. The passion is still burning, you know, super bright. And what I love too is they're all smart. They're smart enough to stick around.
Most of them.
Thankfully, they watch shows like ours. They want to go to seminars. They want to learn as much as they can learn. And that's why I'm happy to have veterans like yourself on, not just because it's great to pick your brain and hear your story and all that stuff, but you can offer something to those younger guys that they're tuning in today. You can maybe offer them some tips and tricks. You can offer them a little bit of what not to do, things like that. And that just for me as a fan and somebody who really believes that our mission statement is to give something back to the business that's given us so much. That's what's great for me, and that's what I love about this.
Once upon a time, before Sir Samurai existed, there was a wrestling fan. When did you fall in love with this business?
I fell in love twice. When I was a little kid flipping through channels. I don't even remember what the show was called, but landed on a WWE Saturday, Sunday morning show. And I remember Rowdy Piper coming out and just the camera, the way it followed him and the entrance theme. And I thought that was amazing and became a regular watcher of that. And then, you know, was a fan through high school. And then like a lot of people sort of petered off in the Bob Sparkplug, Holly Thurman plug, all, you know, that era of the WWE. Because in Northern California, we didn't get TBS. So there was only WWE in Chico, where I was from. And then in college, flipping through channels, I landed on Monday Nitro, having never seen it. And it happened to be the night that Scott Hall came out of the crowd.
Oh.
And I had been following WWE again, so I knew Razor Ramon.
Right.
And that blew me away because I'm a really big comic book geek. And to me, that was the equivalent of, you know, Superman showing up in the Avengers unannounced.
Yeah.
Not in a big crossover, but totally unannounced. You turn the page and there he is.
That was
and
great.
I watched, from that night, I've watched every Raw since. And I watched every Nitro until it went out of business. Yeah. I was getting my degree in English, and I read a lot. So the story aspect, immediately, I just fell in love with the good versus evil and all of that type of thing.
This guy checks all your boxes, Keith. Loves comic books. Yeah, loves comic books, right? He just made an analogy with wrestling and DC and Marvel. I think that's awesome.
But there is a lot of crossover with that. There are a lot of wrestlers who are comic book fans because it is in large part it's the same thing. It's your larger than life hero versus your larger than life villain. And it's when it works best is that titanic clash between the two. That's why anytime I hear somebody go out there and go, faces and heels are dead, that's passe, that's not how we should do things. It's like, it's worked for 100-odd years. It's worked for thousands of years in storytelling. Why would you ever want to say, oh, that doesn't work? Oh, you can't do that anymore. Or that's passe or childish.
Even versus Goliath.
That's fundamental, elemental storytelling is good versus evil.
Yep.
You just have to be smart enough to put the new twist on it to get people behind the good and to hate the evil.
You mentioned pre-show that you started in your late 20s actually training. Take us through that decision, and where did you start training, and who were your trainers?
So when I was in college, I was writing about wrestling. I had a website, and I reviewed like Monday Night Raw for Byron Saxton's website back in the day. And that website led to me being invited to ring announce a show at the beginning of 2002. It was basically a local show. Conan was in the main event. The company reached out, and funny enough, I'd already taken the night off of work because my best friend and I were going to go to the show anyway. We were going to pay our $10 to sit in the front row and see Conan locally. And the guy said, "Hey, would you be interested in ring announcing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to cross over, be on that side of the guardrail." So I ring announced for a variety of companies in Sacramento for a few months, but there was a company called Spring Pro Wrestling, which ran in an old school movie theater type place, ran a couple times a month. And my friends and I would always go to those shows, and I would sit in the crowd and say, someday I hope to be good enough to ring announce for SPW. Like, that was my dreams. I wasn't dreaming of being the champion or main eventing or anything. I was literally like, I hope someday I can introduce other wrestlers there. And then one of their announcers who was in a band went on tour of Japan and was going to miss a couple shows. So they asked me to come in and fill in. And that was July of 2002, and I've been at every SPW event since then. And went at the end of the year 2002, I started training at their academy, with the dream being to have a match. Because again, I'm not one of the I'm somebody who'll tell you that anything's possible and that you can live your dreams. Back then, I was a guy just waiting tables trying to make it through the day. It never occurred to me that a guy like me, a comic book nerd, could actually do what I was paying to see other people do. So I trained with the mentality of, I hope I get to have a match someday. But I was just loving learning how to lock up and learning how to bump and stuff like that. And then mid 2003 is when I crossed over and officially became a wrestler on that roster and have never looked back.
Take us through that first match in front of a crowd. Were you nervous? Were you excited?
Yeah.
Were you both?
Very nervous. It was, so the SPW had a 2-man announce team, and our trainer was the big heel in the company. His name Big Ugly JD Bishop, and he owned the company at the time.
All that name.
And so the storyline was he challenged the two of us to a match, so as announcers. And it was 2 out of 3 falls, and I tapped out both falls. But loved it. It was a dream come true.
Oh, yeah.
Coworkers came to support me. Friends came, family came, and again, I didn't do much. I can't think of a single move I actually did in the match. I just remember getting my butt handed to me. But it was everything I thought it could be and so much more. Like, so epic. And then to go into the locker room afterwards and have people who I used to pay to watch wrestle congratulate me was, again, a bigger dream than I ever thought. And it's funny how things work out. In the crowd that night was my fellow bartender from where I was working, and he fell in love with it, and he's now on SmackDown as a referee. His name's Brian. He's the Vietnamese referee who's on SmackDown every week.
Cool.
And he literally just came to support me in my ring announcing / wrestling dreams, and then started training with us and was a very respected wrestler. But when they offered them a job, they offered him the ref job, so he took it. Wisely so.
Yeah.
It's better than tending bar at a corporate restaurant.
So where did the name Sir Samurai come from?
Yeah, that I'm curious about.
So it has nothing to do with wrestling. Again, I'm a nerd. I'm really into Japanese culture, the honor, stuff like that. I've taken Aikido, karate, jiu-jitsu. And when I first got the internet, I needed an AOL screen name. And obviously I didn't want Josh Littell or Jay Littell or whatever. Everybody had cool names. So I wanted Samurai, but of course Samurai was taken. The Samurai was taken. And I'm just entering different things. And guest number 57 was Sir Samurai. So again, it was only intended to be, my online name. And then when I opened my website, it was Sir Samurai's Wrestling World. And I reviewed books and, basically, it was just I had no connections. I had no inside information. It was by watching this week's Nitro, I'm guessing they're going this direction, so predictions, stuff like that.
Right.
But when the guy brought me in for that first show as a ring announcer, I assumed I would do it as Josh Littell. But he was like, no, you're Sir Samurai. You have your own website that gets, 12 visits a day or whatever,
Right.
Trivial amount of it. It's not like it was well known. So
Right.
he made me Sir Samurai, and that just carried over from company to company. I never told anyone, I'll ring announce, but I have to be this. Or when I debut, I have to be Sir Samurai. It literally was just companies acting like it was an established name. So it's always been my name. And I've been lucky. My tag partner, one of my tag partners, I get around, but I have a tag partner named Drake Frost, and it seems that half the companies he worked for don't like his name, so they change his name all the time. But it's funny because no one ever asks me to change my name. If they hire me, they're hiring Sir Samurai.
Well, I tell you, so that
That's a
first
unique
match,
story.
what was that, Keith?
That's a really unique story for a ring name, because usually you hear kind of that, it's sort of an accident, but you hear like, I went out there, I couldn't come up with anything, so the promoter just threw something on
Sure.
me, and I said, well, I'll figure it out later and I'll change it, and then it sticks and it never changes. I think that was something Mick Foley said, is that I think it was Dutch Mantel threw Cactus Jack on him, and he's like, I'll figure out something better later, and 17 years later, he's still Cactus Jack.
What's nice about it is, and I don't remember who started saying this, but in the last few years, it might be Lance Storm, started the expression elevator pitch. Your gimmick needs to be something that you could pitch in an elevator. Or if someone sees you, they can say, I saw a guy who did this, instead of this elaborate 10-minute description. So when people ask who Sir Samurai is, it's easier to describe the heel. I'm the guy who preaches honor and fair play, and then when the ref's not looking, I kick my opponent in the testicles. So it's sort of like the variation of the straight edge, I'm better than you thing. It's I'm honorable and, I'm a warrior. But, if there's a shortcut, I'll take it.
So talk about the birth of the Honor Society and who were some of the members in that society.
So the Honor Society was the brainchild of Big Ugly, my trainer. And the concept was I was really comfortable in front of the crowd. Having ring announced for a year and being a waiter just makes you used to dealing with people.
Right.
So the premise was it would be a stable in which I was the spokesman, and students, as they came up in the SPW Training Academy, would join my stable so that I could help them get comfortable being in front of people. Like they would take care of the wrestling, I would take care of the personality at first.
Right.
And then inevitably I would turn on them or they would turn on me and they would go have their own careers.
Yeah.
And the next generation would join me. There's been a bunch of versions.
Yeah.
The most famous member and one of my best friends in the world is NXT's Timothy Thatcher.
Right.
Tim Frost and I were the Honor Society for many years, and I still claim Timmy is a member of the Honor Society. He has the shirt, he's got the membership card. But Timmy was just another guy from SPW who was comfortable with the technical wrestling, but hadn't yet figured out who he was. So they were my enforcers. I was the heel who would talk a lot, and then they would solve my problems for me.
So when you see guys that have come through and worked with you make it like that, how do you feel about that?
Oh, it's amazing. There's so many of my friends right now who are just destroying things in a positive way.
Nice.
Timmy, who trained with me, I was the senior student when Timmy came up. I can no way claim him as like that I trained him, but he's one of my 3 best friends in the world. And when I watch him on NXT, what's amazing about him is they haven't changed him.
Right.
He was Timothy Thatcher from Sacramento, California when he was in Germany. He was Timothy Thatcher when he was in SAC. And when he walks the aisle teaming with Tommaso, he's Timothy Thatcher from SAC. So few people get to do that when they sign. They become clowns or they become whatever, or they get silly variations of their name. So that's great. But Tim's not the only one. Jeff Cobb and I go way back and have wrestled countless times. And I see him in New Japan destroying things. And Thunder Rosa, who had the top match of AEW this year last week, was the ring girl at SPW when she was first starting off. She trained at a different company, but in NorCal, there's a tight community where we all know when you're starting off, you got to be seen and you got to do things. So her trainer was like, hey, could she like ring the bell and get gear? You know, and I was like, yeah, of course, we'll take whatever help we can get.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's one of the most respected women wrestlers around. And
she's tough. That match was phenomenal.
Right?
Phenomenal. It was one of the best female matches I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah. It's just it's amazing to see friends live their dreams, you know, or just even take it to the next level. Because I know Timmy, he's not satisfied. And I know Thunder Rosa, she's not satisfied. But they're still doing things that people can point at and go, that's what you do when you never give up, you never back down, and you just outwork everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Keith, you want to jump in here at all?
I mean, I'm a big fan of both of them. So I mean, Timothy Thatcher, yeah, the minute he came into NXT, I'm like, that's what I love, that mat-based grappling submission stuff. And like you say, he's Timothy Thatcher. They didn't put a gimmick on him. They didn't change him, which is very surprising because, you know, that he's not their usual cup of tea. They usually don't want the guy that basically his whole thing is, I'm real. I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it, is like, you get in there and I get a body part. I'm going to destroy that body part and you are going to quit. They usually don't love that kind of an easy elevator pitch for a guy, and they usually don't push that kind of guy. So like you say, being able to get in there and outwork everybody and basically show, like, I'm going to get over. Whether you want me to get over or not, I'm going to get over. I'm going to make this work. You know, he's tremendous. And Thunder Rosa, too, has been great. She's been making the most of that opportunity she's gotten to be in front of a national audience and just hits it out of the park every single time.
As you developed the character Sir Samurai, you channeled, like, you know, you were martial arts trained. Your movesets that I watched are kind of a mixture of everything, because you have a lot of striking stuff, but you also have a lot of grappling stuff, and you even do a lot of submission stuff too. Yeah. So where do you get that influences from? Who are some of your influences that you kind of like draw from?
So my two big favorites are Mick Foley and Eddie Guerrero.
Good ones.
Just because they personify what I feel a wrestler should be, in that they don't need to be in the main event and they don't need to be against the world's greatest wrestler to have an entertaining match. Absolutely. And I've always felt that that's forgotten. I hear people all the time complaining, oh, my match sucked because I had that person. But again, and I'm going to drop his name 1,000 times because I've traveled the country with him, Thatcher would never blame anyone for a bad match. Thatcher was so good that he shouldn't have bad matches. And obviously, bad is relative from person to person. Right. To me, if a match is entertaining and the crowd enjoys it and no one gets hurt, it's not a bad match.
Right.
You know, maybe technically it's not as clean as some other match. But if you're popping the crowd and doing what you're supposed to do on the card, you succeed. And that's so Eddie and Foley, to me, were always like that. 99.9% of the time, it didn't matter who they were in the ring with, they were going to deliver.
So I've seen you wrestle as a heel, and I've seen you wrestle as a face. Which one do you prefer?
Heel's definitely easier. Heel's easier and more fun, but to be truly an over as a face where the crowd cares, I feel is more satisfying. Yeah. And you can't really get that going somewhere. Like if I travel outside of my bubble and I'm somewhere for one night, I can get a good pop. Heel or face, I'm comfortable. I'm always the guy in the locker room when the promoter's like, hey, which do you prefer? I'm like, man, who am I working?
Yeah.
But whatever they're best at, I'll do the other thing.
Right.
I don't need to say, oh, I need to do this or I need to do this. I'll get myself over either way. But the truly, like, the most satisfying moments in the business come from being the baby face who the little kid wants a picture with. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a guy named Levi Shapiro who's getting his name out there a lot right now. He's traveling a lot. He and I have had a running thing against each other where we both hope to get stabbed by a fan if we're working heel. So that's satisfying also, to have fans hate you. But there's just a certain magic in having a crowd actually care about you. Not just care like, that was a good show, that was a good match. But I do triathlons. And I've done the Escape from Alcatraz, which is what it sounds like, where you swim from Alcatraz to San Francisco, which was considered impossible, and then bite
Right.
and run. And when I've done that, fans have shown up there with signs to support me. And that's real. You know what I
Right.
mean? So as much as I love having the crowd hate me, that's pretty magical that people care enough about me to where they actually support me in my real life challenges. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
either way, I'm happy. What I hate are tweeners. When I ask, hey, what do you like to be? Oh, I'm kind of a tweener. Because now I don't even know what his goal is. Do you want to
Right.
be booed or you want to be cheered? Because I'll do what I can to help you reach your goal.
Right.
But I've never understood the psychology of wanting to be a tweener. Do you
Right.
want 50% of the people to boo you and 50% to cheer you?
Because that
what
never
are you
works.
after? Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Never works.
I
Ask
want
Roman
cut
Reigns.
and dry.
Ask Roman Reigns or John Cena if that works.
Right, exactly.
Well, I don't know that they were tweeners when you bring that up. I think they were baby faces that were being pushed wrong. They were
And that
being
the crowd
pushed in-
turned on.
They turned
Right,
on him.
the crowd
Yeah.
turned because, like I always say, John Cena organically got over as a baby face, and John Cena got himself to that WrestleMania match. The company didn't the company, yes, ultimately puts him there because if they want to put the brakes on him and say you're not going there, you're not going. Where you're going, but you're going to be like Daniel Bryan or Kofi Kingston, where we're just not going to push you. You're not going to get the title, and we're going to get that title off, and it's never going to get anywhere near you again. But the fans got him there, and then the company got behind him, and then Vince decided, kind of like with Kevin Nash, with the Diesel gimmick, where it was, okay, you got there yourself, but now you have to be my image of what the babyface champion is. And the audience turned around and said, but that's not the guy we were into. That's not the guy we fell in love with. Our man just turned on us here. That's what I feel like happens there. And people don't always understand that is like the fans didn't leave him. In the fans' mind, he left them. And that's why you got what you got, where you got the kids were behind him, but the adults, the males, were not. And I think because, in a sense, they felt betrayed. They felt like the guy that they got behind left them and went off and was, the corporate choice and what the company's choice was versus being their choice. And that goes back to what you're saying, Samurai, about how hard it is, but how gratifying it is once you get the audience to say, that's my dude.
Yeah.
I'm behind him. That's my guy. I'm with him. And it's delicate. It's very delicate to keep that going and to be able to keep that kind of connection going. It's not an easy thing.
Sir Samurai has won some titles, right? How did you feel about winning those titles, and which one meant the most to you?
I'm a mark. I'm not one. I've never politicked to win a title.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I'm famous in some companies for politicking to lose matches because I'll be like, no, it makes more sense
Right.
for that guy, and people will tease me for that because really, as long as the match is over, I don't care if my shoulders are on the mat or not.
Right.
But that being said, especially like a heavyweight title to me is the company saying, or at least I take it as, we expect you to be a draw. We
Right.
expect you to deliver. That's always been my goal and the Honor Society's goal. We have multiple theme songs, but they're all the Star Wars variations of Star Wars songs.
Right.
Because the goal is the moment it hits, I want fans who've been around to go, oh, we know who this is. This is going to be fun.
Right.
We don't necessarily know if it's good guy or bad guy or even what member of the Honor Society it is. Because
Right.
as I said, right now I hold like 4 tag team titles, and each one's with a different member of the society based
Right.
on who was able to make it that night to be my partner.
Right.
But when I won the SPW heavyweight title from my trainer, that was as real gets, again, in a worked business. And then when I lost it to Timothy Thatcher. And that was 7 years into my heel run. And on that night, we did a double turn where he was the most popular guy in the company and I was the most hated. But I did a 60-minute hardcore Iron Man match in which I turned
Wow.
babyface during the match because I did some truly stupid things. Like just ridiculously dumb things, but the crowd was ready for me to be a face because I had been entertaining for 7 years as a heel.
Right.
But after I won and retained the title, Tim came out and turned heel on me, saying that you're a disgrace to the business, blah, 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 blah. I agreed to put it on the line against him right there, and he beat me for it. That's my favorite title switch because Tim, again, one of my best friends.
Right.
And everyone talks about Rock Austin and the double turn, but in real life, a double turn's really hard.
Yeah.
Because the crowd has to want it. And there has to be a crowd. Most indie shows, you got 30 or 40 people. Who cares what they want? Because most are there because their friends are somewhere on the card. You know, you only have a few actual diehard wrestling fans. But this was a big show for us. And to have that whole angle work, and then because I'm a jerk, because Ugly taught me to be a jerk, nobody knew he was coming out. No one knew we were wrestling a second match. And no one knew we were doing a double turn. Like, even the members of the Honor Society who I had with me at ringside were like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, just go with it. And so to have that work, that's my favorite part of wrestling, is to come up with an idea, know that the idea might not work, and then have it work.
And that's great, too, that they didn't know, because then their reactions are genuine.
Real.
Exactly.
They're not working. They're genuinely, what is happening?
Yeah.
What the crap? What are we watching? And then that brings the audience into it even more. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Are we watching? Because then they question. They question what's happening. Wait, are we watching something that wasn't supposed to happen?
Yeah.
Or is this real now? Or, you know, because I always go back to, so many guys have said it. I can't make them think the business is real, but I can make them think I'm real.
Right, exactly.
And that's those are the moments I love. Those moments where you forget and you're sucked in and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Am I watching something that's real? Am I watching something I'm not supposed to be watching here? What's happening?
Yeah, I've had coworkers come, because obviously I use my day job to put butts in seats. I promote heavily when we're running. And I've had coworkers who knew nothing about wrestling who've come, especially me versus Drake Frost, who's one of my partners. Drake and I are both big dudes. We like to hit each other. We're different territories, do different things. SoCal is very well known for thigh slapping. NorCal, we haven't learned that yet. That's just not in our arsenal. We throw a forearm, we're ringing bells and stuff. And afterwards, I've had people who, again, who've never seen wrestling ask, how come everything else was fake, but you and your partner's match was real? Because we were really hitting each other. And to me, that's the best compliment I can get. It's because if you've never seen a show, you think you know, you think you understand. You've seen the Hulk Hogan on, TV and all of that. And if I can make you question that and go, wait a minute, that crazy guy's actually really hitting the guy. And then Drake and I go out to Denny's afterwards. I'm not saying we hospitalize each other, but we make people question just how fake is fake and how real is real. I love that feeling.
Yeah, that one match in particular I watched this morning was you and Kratos, JR Kratos.
Yeah,
where
he's SPW. He came up in our school.
Where you stood in the ring and chopped each other back and forth. And I saw one time you hit him, a welt start to form where you hit him.
And that's what's great about wrestling, because anyone who looks at me standing next to JR, who's working the NWA pay-per-view tonight against Brodus.
Right.
JR's a big, impressive dude.
Yeah.
But because it's wrestling, I can make people believe that I have a chance against JR.
Right.
In real life, JR would eat my lunch. He's a trained MMA guy. He was a boxer before he came to SPW. But because of the magic of wrestling and promos and history of the people who've seen me work, you forget that and you think that Sir Samurai could actually take JR Kratos in a fight. And that's another magic thing about wrestling. You make people forget.
That's what I love about it.
Or logic.
And that's what I love about it the most.
Right? You watch it, you see two guys, they don't have to be, because UFC weight classes and all of that. In wrestling, you can have a 150-pound cruiserweight against a monster, but if the story's told right, you're going to believe in the cruiserweight.
Yep.
Even though in real life, the cruiserweight probably doesn't stand much chance against the monster.
I mean, Rey Mysterio was world champion.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So if you could book Sir Samurai in his prime against any wrestler in the history, whoever stepped into the ring who you've not wrestled, who would that be and why?
If it was anyone, it would have to be Mick Foley. Just because, as I said, I've done a lot of stupid things in this business, and I would happily do more. I've done 3 barefoot thumbtack matches. That's a level of stupid that's, why did I do it?
Foley would relate to.
Right. And the thing is, I'm so dumb, I did them all at SPW, and because I'm from the SPW Academy, I don't get paid at SPW. So I not only did them, I did them for free to increase the house. You know what I mean?
Unbelievable.
So I think it would be real, me in my prime versus Foley in his prime. Who knows what stupid stuff we do? Yeah. But it would, that's a true dream match.
It sounds like if you got your head together with him, you guys would come up with something like so spectacular nobody would ever forget.
Right.
Just don't let Terry Funk get in those conversations.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's a good idea, guys. But what if you added some landmines?
Right.
And then once you got the landmines, how about we get some shark-infested waters?
Stop.
That would really add to it. Like, that's one thing. That's why you don't want Terry involved in it, because Terry will take it up.
So when you hang out, look at the cat.
Yeah, Foley. This is Foley, my cat name.
Foley, your cat. Yeah, there you go.
Because he's not very coordinated, and he takes a lot of sick bumps. He falls down a lot.
I love that. So when you hang up the boots for good, do you see yourself being a trainer down the road?
I'm a trainer now. Yeah,
you're a trainer now.
I took over complete control of SPW in 2009.
Oh, nice.
And myself and one of my tag partners, Scoot Robertson, are the head trainers at the academy now. And I love it. One of my students this weekend debuted in Mission Pro for Thunder Rosa in Texas, is a referee, but she's, getting her name out there. There's a kid named Jack Cartwheel who's working all over California nowadays, who's an amazing cruiserweight, who's one of ours. And it's to continue the legacy. Because when I started at SPW, John Morrison was just about to go win Tough Enough. Johnny was SPW's first success story.
Nice.
But after Johnny, we had Brian the Ref and Timmy, obviously, and other people's to different levels of degree. So I'll never be done wrestling. If I can't wrestle anymore, especially because, as we said earlier in the pre-show, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So I don't have to bump to be able to share knowledge, and to remind, even though the coolest thing nowadays may be a spot where you follow each other off the ropes 5 times with the strikes and all of that type of stuff. I'm the guy who go, yeah, but what if you add this and this to make it actually play into a story or the finish?
Right.
So I think I have knowledge that not necessarily everyone's thinking about, that's how to make them care, how to go. This is something I tell Jack a lot. He's a great cruiserweight. He's amazing, but he wants to be a main eventer. And the main eventers, the ones who make people truly care about them, not just what fancy move do you have in your arsenal. And he can hit anything. He can, he watches Pac wrestle and then hits the Black Arrow. Like, he's that good of a gymnastic. But It's like, be more than just the moves. So yeah, I will be involved with wrestling until I'm done with this life.
Well, what if you could give advice to that young guy 1 year in, 2 years in, what kind of advice would you give that kind of guy?
So the simple advice and I've got 1,000. You could write a book of like the things I say to my students all the time. But the easiest one is nothing ever happens on the couch.
Right.
If you're not going, like my student Alejandra, who flew herself to Texas to referee, but chances are next time she goes or the time after, she'll be on the card.
Nice.
If you don't put yourself out there, nothing's going to happen. And if people get held up in their first year, or I'm not going to work for this amount of money, or I'm not going to work for this, or I'm not going to work for this. Next month, I'm going to Kansas for 2 shows and Oklahoma for a show. And the way I got those bookings was by doing an empty arena taping in NorCal which led to another empty arena taping in NorCal, which then led to a joint show which had wrestlers from all across the country doing an empty arena thing, in which the Honor Society wrestled a group from Kansas, and then we had another match against a group from West Virginia, and those matches went well, which is now leading me to go other places. If I had skipped the first empty arena show because it was paying like $20 and there was no fans and COVID,
right,
then I wouldn't have gotten the next show and I wouldn't have gotten the next thing, and I wouldn't be crossing 2 states off my list. To me, it's that simple. You have to be places to get things, and you have to understand we can cuss, right?
Yeah, we can totally cuss.
You have to learn to like the taste of shit so that years from now you get success. You know what I mean? You don't get it in a year. Some people do.
Right.
But Timmy and I always say, do anything once. You'll work anywhere once. You'll work anyone once. Yeah. And then decide if you want to go back. But so many people are, I won't work at that company, or I won't work that guy, or I won't travel unless they pay for my airfare, hotel, and all that's valid. But I've gotten 9 states in another country because I was willing to do more than the next guy. And all of those have helped get my name out there. Not that I'm famous, but I'm known more now than I was 5 years ago.
Right.
And assuming I'm still wrestling in 5 years, I'll be known then more than I am now. So to all the young people out there, get in the car, travel with people. For my first year in the business, I drove to Portland, Oregon every month with Big Ugly, and that's a 9-hour drive. Every month trying to get on cards. And we wouldn't stay the night because we had real jobs. So we'd drive 9 hours, wrestle a show in Portland, and then drive 9 hours home. Because it's better to be at the shows working than it is to be at home wondering how the shows are going.
Yeah, and that's JT Funk. When we mentioned him earlier, that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. He's going all over the place, mostly down in the Florida area in the southern states, but he's been out west, he's been in Texas, I don't think he's been out in California, but I know that he's been around, and so he gets it. He gets that. He's got that drive and that ambition. And if you want to make it in this business, if you want to do this for a living,
right,
you got to get yourself out there, like you said.
You have to. The key is you have to make your name worth something. Mm-hmm. Like, why should a company pay me well to be on the card? Locally, I'm known. For years, I was the king of taking people's virginity. Somebody's student was getting ready for their first match, and they were like, let's have Samurai work them. Samurai's really good at working rookies. I've worked PE teacher or football coaches. I've worked reporters. I've worked, I can put a match together like that. But if you've never heard of me, there's no reason why a New York promotion should give me a shot. Now, if I can make my name worth something, and then I contact them and they're like, I've heard of Samurai. My body of work will speak for itself if I can get you to watch it. But if you've never heard of me, why would you give me a shot? So it's on me to make my name worth something. And the only way I can do that is by going places and succeeding. Getting myself over, getting my opponent over, delivering in the ring one way or another,
How much wrestling do you watch as far as TV goes? WWE, AEW, NXT?
So I watch Raw, SmackDown, AEW, and NXT every week. Okay. But when I say watch, sometimes it's on in the background. Right. Sometimes it's on in the other room. I find those 3 hours to be hard sometimes. Right. Obviously, if somebody I know, like, AEW, I'm not one of those people who think AEW walks on water. I think they make a lot of mistakes. But I have a lot of friends who I've wrestled a bunch of times there. Brian Cage is from my hometown. I probably have more wins over Brian Cage than anyone else because he came up locally. I've had cage matches with him. Will Hobbs is from APW, which is in the Bay Area. I wrestled Will Hobbs before he was Will Hobbs. His name was Will Rude. Right. So whenever somebody who I know is on TV, that's when I put the book down or my phone down or whatever and pay attention. But I also, especially, I'm 47. I'm not ripped. So the more knowledge I have, the more advantage I have. I hear wrestlers all the time bragging that they don't watch wrestling.
Yeah.
I've never understood the pride and ignorance. If it's something you want to do and make money off of, you should have some idea what's going on.
You only got me by 2 years.
Yeah.
I turned 45 this month.
Yeah, but it doesn't
The
mean
baby's over there.
It doesn't mean you have to watch Fastlane, but you should at least know who's working Mania.
Right.
You should know what's going on in the industry that you supposedly love.
I don't watch religiously Raw or SmackDown or NXT every week, but I keep tabs on what's going on.
Exactly.
I read about what's going on. Once in a while, I will watch SmackDown over. I prefer SmackDown over Raw these days.
Yeah.
AEW, I gave a real chance to the first 6 months to a year that they were around, and they had some good things in the beginning. And I got excited for wrestlers to have another place to go that's not
Right.
WWE to make a living doing this. But then, like you said, they're making a lot of mistakes. They have too many hands in the bucket.
Yeah.
They have too many ideas going in. You need one guy, at least one, if not maybe two guys that know what they're doing, that knows what sells, writing and booking things. Because if you have Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and everybody else with their hands in the bucket, nobody has a real direction.
Right.
Yeah, and there needs to be somebody who says no, because not every idea is the best idea ever.
Right.
And sometimes even the smartest workers have to be protected from themselves, because everybody has a bad idea every once in a while. Like you said about Mick Foley, we all love Mick Foley, but Mick will tell you too. There were times where I really needed somebody to tell me no. Right. I really needed somebody to tell me, don't do that. Like one story he told in his first book was taking that nasty plunge off the ring apron onto the floor on his head, and he was taking it every night, no matter the crowd size.
Right.
And then Jeff Jarrett comes to him and goes, stop doing that. You're going to kill yourself, and you're going to be out of here, and you're going to be out of the business in 2 years. You got to wait. You got to save that stuff for when you've got a big crowd and a camera on you, and it matters.
Right. It's weird, though, because, that's totally accurate, but the quest is to get in front of the big crowd, and sometimes you have to do stupid things in front of the small crowd to earn the spot in front of the bigger crowd, because, again, it goes back to, as I was saying, making your name for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're completely right, but at the same point, sometimes you have to do something stupid to hopefully get something better down the line.
Yeah, but we talked about that on the pre-show too, where you were saying you kind of save your stupid stuff for maybe once a year, and that's much different.
Yeah, than nightly.
I gotta come up with something dumb to do every week.
Every week, and he was doing that.
Yeah.
And there's still guys that are doing that because they think the game is, can you top this?
Right.
My thing, and I'm sure the audience is getting tired of hearing the story, is I always go back to a Porky Pig cartoon where he's a talent agent, and you have all the acts that he's seeing, and this wolf keeps barging in and going, I have the greatest act you've ever seen. I have the greatest thing. And finally, Porky gets exasperated with him and goes, fine, show me what you can do. And he comes in the devil costume. He's mixing all the chemicals, and he drinks it down. He gets on the high dive, and he blows up. And Porky's like, wow, that is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Where can I sign you up? He goes, yeah, well, there's only one little thing wrong with it. I can only do it once.
Right.
And that's the problem that I see so many guys doing now. It seems like is they're out there and they're with that. Yeah, I have the greatest thing you've ever seen. Let me get my shit in. Let me show you what I can do. Let me show you what I can do. And you do it, and it's great, and it's amazing, but you only have that impact once.
Right.
And then the choice is, can I get that to make you like me? So you're invested in me, and I can slow it down, and I can tell a story, and I can do what I need to do. Or are you invested in the stunt? And now I have to keep doing a bigger and bigger stunt every time to keep your attention. And there are so many guys, and it worries me because there are so many guys that seem to be going the stunt route and saying they love the stunt, and that's what I have to keep doing. I have to keep doing the big stunt. And I care about wrestlers, even if I'll never meet them, even if I'm not a giant fan of their style or anything like that. I recognize that you guys hurt yourselves every time you go out there and you hurt yourselves for our enjoyment. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you have families and you have loved ones and you have people that care about you that don't want to see you in a wheelchair. And the goal should be to not be in the wheelchair at the end of it. Yeah, it's probably inevitable that as you get older, you're going to have aches and pains. You're going to maybe hurt more than the average person that doesn't do it. But my God, I want people to have a good quality of life. You know, I look at the rock and roll that are 60 and are still in a good spot that they can do this. And it's like, you did it right then. If you're still at 60 able to say, yeah, I can still have a match, you know, a couple weekends here and there if I want to, you know, that's the goal. It shouldn't be to where you're 40 or 50, where you're in the Mick Foley situation where it's like, I can't do it and my quality of life is so bad. Right. I have a hard time putting my socks on by myself. You know, I don't want to see that for anybody. And I'm worried that these kids, they don't understand that. And they're looking at it now as like, I'm 20, I'm invincible, I can do whatever I want. And they're not thinking about, yeah, but you're not going to be 20 forever. And eventually this is going to catch up. And you're going to be in a world of hurt. And if you haven't made the money that you should have made for that world of hurt, was it worth it?
All right.
And I killed the show being a downer.
And you did. You did. So is there anything you got coming up that you'd like to promote or mention?
The only thing I've got coming up is the trip. It's myself, Frost, Scoot, and Alejandra, who had gone to Texas. We're doing 2 shows in Kansas and 1 in Oklahoma next month, which I'm really excited about because, as we were saying in the pre-show, Northern California is still closed due to COVID. I just returned to work a few weeks ago because the restaurants were not even allowed to be open.
Right.
So there's nothing locally going on at all. Luckily, we're going to get, you know, a trip with the, you know, Frost and Scooter, my, you know, besides Timmy, are my 2 best friends in the world. And then Alejandra's the young, hungry girl. It's great. When she was 12, she came to a comic convention we were wrestling at and got a picture with us, and she was dressed as Bailey.
Nice.
And now she's one of the prize students at the SPW Training Academy. And those are those stories, you know, that just...
You think she has a dream of wrestling, Bailey?
Yeah, I'm sure she does.
That'd be awesome.
And the thing is, there's no reason why she couldn't.
That'd be awesome.
She's not like me breaking in when she's 30. She's 19 now, I think, you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where she can spend the next 3, 4, 5 years
getting better,
just doing whatever booking she can get to get better.
Yep.
And not be stressed like, oh, it's too late for me to make it, you know?
Right.
So I'm really excited about that. I love walking the aisle in a place where they've never heard of me, have no idea who I am, see me, and they pass judgment on me, and then 10 minutes later they're chanting my name.
Right.
You know, because
and
they
I've
pass
seen
judgment based on my appearance. There's a reason why my fat ass and Frost and Scoot, we wear trunks. We come out and people judge us. They think they know who we are, and then we show that we can fly, we can be technical, we can kick the crap out of each other. I'm not gonna say we're old school, but we're professional wrestlers. And, you know, I'm not gonna wear a singlet and 2 t-shirts to try to look a little skinnier. I'm not gonna dye my hair black so I look a little younger.
Right.
The selling point of Sir Samurai is I am who I am. If you follow me on social media, I'm me, whether I had a bad night at work or whatever. There's no real illusions with me. And it's one of the reasons the people who like me actually like me.
I urge everybody to go on YouTube, go on PPW's channel, go on SPW's channel, or just search Sir Samurai Wrestling and you find his matches. I found your matches easily. I found a whole bunch of them from up until last year and all the way to like 10 years ago. So, I mean, they're all there, and there's all different kinds of opponents. Some guys you know, some guys you don't know, but every single time I was entertained. Anything I watched, I was entertained.
Thank you.
So obviously, you know, everything you've done in your wrestling career, you've lived this dream. We've had to live vicariously through you because we're fans. I've been a fan as long or longer than you have, and I'm watching you do this thing. And I love it. I love every minute of it. I love the whole thing. I love the entrance. I love the Sir Samurai character. I love the whole damn thing. I'm not saying that if I was a wrestler, I'd be Sir Samurai. That's what I'm saying. But I love the whole thing. And I know that Keith relates to you in a manner of well-read, student of the game, old school, comic book guy, like all that wrapped into one little package there. I mean, I think you're Keith's new favorite wrestler.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to sit down and watch the more Sir Samurai matches.
Absolutely, man. I sent you a couple, but you should check him out because he's awesome. All right. That being said, my man, is there anything else that you would like to talk about or ask us before we get out of here?
Not necessarily, but I want to do a cheap plug because not enough people have seen it. For people who have Amazon Prime, there's a TV show called Beyond Geek. And the premise of the show is they send a reporter into a world that they've never experienced, and it's their adventures. So they send a football player reporter to a Star Trek convention. Well, in the second season, episode 6, is a female reporter was sent to SPW to train to be a wrestler, having never seen wrestling. And the end of the episode is herself and her partner versus me and Christina Von Urie, who was in TNA once upon a time. But it's a great look at indie wrestling, and it's all about SPW. So it's one of those things where I wish more people would see it because it's just they do such a great job on paying respect to wrestling in a 22-minute format, and I'm really proud of it. So Beyond Geek on Amazon Prime.
I'm watching it. I
gotta watch.
I'm gonna check that out. So we're gonna get out of here, man. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your stories, sharing your insight on this business. And you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun.
And I'm glad you had fun. And like I said, check this guy out on YouTube. Awesome stuff. And I'm so glad you're getting to wrestle again. Keith and I are actually excited because we're actually going to a live wrestling show here in Pennsylvania for the first time in months because of COVID. So this is awesome. Nice. We're excited locally that we're going to go see some local wrestling because we like to support our. That's the biggest thing we always say on this show. Support your locals. Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. These guys put their bodies on the line for your entertainment. Go out and support your locals because without them, we wouldn't have the Thatchers of the world and things like that. So awesome, man. Good stuff. Great stuff. Nice meeting you. Keith, any last words, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly just thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come on and hang out with us, tell your story like Alan said. Thank you for, putting the 20 years in. Thank you for training.
He's not done.
I know he's not done.
He's not done.
I want to thank him for everything he's done so far and everything he's going to do, because like I say, you guys are out there, you're putting your bodies on the line and you deserve respect and you deserve thanks for that. I know you do it because you love it. I know you're getting paid for it, but at the same token, I think it's nice that somebody recognizes it and says, thank you for what you're giving us.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That means a lot.
And are those matches you're doing out in Kansas and whatnot going to end up somehow on YouTube or anything?
I sure hope so. I'm sure. I mean, it's under an umbrella called AIWF that has promotions all throughout the country. So I know they're filming them for something, but if I had $1 for everything that I did that was filmed for something.
Right.
I've been involved in multiple reality show pilots that never saw the light of day. I worry about what I can take care of. I'm going to show up, do what I can. My crew and I are going to show who SPW is and who the Honor Society is. And if something comes of it, great. And if not, it's just another story for the collection.
Awesome, man. Good stuff. All right. I'm the Big Albowski. He's Professor Keith. He is Sir Samurai from Northern California, and he's all over the internet. Find him. He's great. It's great, entertaining stuff. Excellent having you, sir. Thank you very much. And everybody, guys, we will see you all Saturday night at 6:00.
I think we actually won't. Next Saturday, I'm pretty sure
you are correct. Next Saturday is when we're going to that local show. That's correct. We can't announce which local show because they haven't promoted it yet. So, okay. You're right, Keith. Thank you. We will see you next Sunday night at 6:00 for Around the Turnbuckle. And Check us out on YouTube. Go on YouTube. Go on 2M1L Media for all our shows that we have going on there. Home Team Sports, Spittin' with Spitter, Around the Turnbuckle, all that good stuff. Subscribe to our channel. And Mr. Samurai, if you have anybody that would love to come on here and tell us their story, by all means, send them our way.
I will let my crew know.
Thanks, man. And hey, thank you very much again.
Yeah.
And be safe. And we'll see everybody next time on Around the Turnbuckle.
Guys.
What you gonna do, brother? Oh, yeah! Woo! What? What? If you smell what the rock...
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.